be holding fort on watching over whether the interest of the public as well, they're being cemented. So you're talking about the process propriety and the sanctity of it, that it will not be shortchanged, that we've seen before. When we have, Naivasha and with the draft bills being amended and all these collections have been done. Yeah. When you talk about inclusivity, is that something we should consider as well? Because this is political players who are on the table.
I think just to complete that, the way the Constitution has been drafted and all these processes have been put through is on the fact that we are all going to be honest brokers. That when it comes to that, as a representative of the people, you go in and you talk on behalf of the people. But when you got political parties, issues begin to change.
Issues begin
to
change.
Who is talking for the people?
Who is talking? Good question. Who is talking for the people when it comes to inclusivity? And I think they've been raising a very germane concern on the voice of the people on this particular panel. So the 10-member committee, what's really constituted coming up with this 10-member committee? What really informed coming up with the 10-member committee? I know maybe we're past that junction, but it's not way too late. 60 days, you say it's short. But in terms of having faces of Kenya as well is very key.
But somebody must represent another. This 10-member committee, the significant sides of the political side sat down and each side produced its 5 for whatever considerations that there were. And in respect of how public participation will get into it, first you have to play the game for people to cheer up and see and comment and critique. I think it's good for these 10. They're going to be able to set the agenda and then people weigh in with their views. But that's just views about the process. After a decision is made, you still need to step back and see how they weigh in on the decision that has been made. So public participation doesn't end simply because you are told about it at the beginning. At each stage it has implications and you want a view on that implication. So let's see how that works out. Personally, I think that my colleagues have said this as well. We just agree with them that the fact that we're talking is a very important thing. And about what, it's a whole universe of possibility of things you can discuss. The few that are here are just adequate for the moment. What I think should be important now is how does society engage on a continuing basis going forward? I saw a clip there that you had earlier when people are making comments in respect of, I think, the first choice company that had defrauded or alleged to have defrauded people. You can see how articulately people are presenting their views and so on. I think Kenyans have moved on, particularly since 2010. And it's something that probably being contemporary, we don't see it. But I'm sure the history will judge Kenyans favorably on this, that for better or for worse, things are coming out. People are talking about them and so on, even if they disagree about them. A few years ago, I was on an overseas trip or something that we were doing, and there were delegations from an African country. It was Zimbabwe. Let me just mention it. It's not entirely negative. So, among them were people from the ruling party and people from the opposition. You know that even out there they couldn't talk to each other. They could not be seen to have been talking to each other and so on. And we in Kenya had gone in with, people from all shades of political things, and they were surprised that was happening. So I think we have gone forward, and I really hope that for this, there will be some things in which there are substantive decisions. Others, let me tell you, things around cost of living, for example, and around the gender question will be broad statements and so on and so forth. What we need on the cost of living, for example, is to get clear parameters defined. If we could do that, say linking inflation to price changes, and saying if they exceeded this, then the vulnerable perhaps would be supported. Not everybody. I mean, we all consume, yes, and pay higher prices, but the billionaires can still survive without help. That those that need help would be assisted, and people have gone through very difficult times. So it's generalized like it's everybody, but those who need help are few. Let us hope that it will lead to an identification of boundaries beyond which we must step in to help the very vulnerable and the children and so on and so forth. I don't believe, for example, that the gender rule will pass
You don't believe it
we
will
don't have
pass?
a solution on the gender role within the confines of the current constitutional provision. And even in mathematics, there are problems that do not have solutions. That's why there are offers around mathematical think tanks around the world seeking people who can participate to help get solutions to particular problems. This one, within the boundaries set, is not going to work. You can go the Rwanda way, in which case we have to redefine how the structure of our politics looks at representation.